Look what's on the ramp at last. The MR2. And you know what that means? That means the engine is going in very soon. I have not done a video for a couple of weeks. Partly because I've been lazy and couldn't be bothered. Partly because to be honest, I have done a fair bit. But I've been working quite a lot, so I've not maybe done as much as I could. And also because that T5 was stuck on the ramp, I couldn't make the big progress, which is this, which kind of put me off a bit. You know, I wasn't pushing it because of that. But I have done a fair bit. I've just not really filmed it. But I'll tell you what I've been up to. Obviously, weeks ago, I rolled and flared the shit out the arches, and obviously I didn't really care what they looked like. I just wanted them to clear the wheels, but you know, I still don't want them to get rusty and look shitter than I had to. So I did a very quick 10-minute spray can, rattle can paint job on them, and they look much better, more, you know, presentable. They don't look good and they're still wavy, but I don't actually really care. I took the inner arch liners out because they're kind of getting away with the big tires, and because of that I got the wax oil out and did both the inner arches just in case, you know, just to help protect it against shitty weather in this country and road salt. To be honest, the car's fucking standing up real good. I mean, it wasn't a rusty car when I bought it, amazingly, for a Japanese import, but it's held up really good thanks to my rust proofing. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like it's been out in the dead of winter, but it's been out in the wet enough times and stuff. But no, my protection seems to be working well enough. I started doing the poly bushes. I say started because I have done just over half of them. I mostly want, I'm going to do all round, but the back's what I cared about, because I want to eliminate wheel hop as much as I can, axle tramp, whatever you want to call it, because that's what kills transmissions, be it mostly the shafts, but gearbox too. So I wanted to fit poly bushes. I couldn't do, well, because the car was on the ground and it had to constantly be rolled around, I had to keep the car mobile, so I couldn't just take all the suspension off and hubs off and just do it all at once. So I've done it bit by bit, and to be honest, it's been pretty painless so far. It does help. I know this car so well now, but there and there now has poly bushes. No, tell a lie. There has poly bushes. There has poly bushes. And the other side the same. I now got to do polybush there either side, which is a bit of a ball ache because that's in the hub. And I got to do a polybush on these, which, well, it's been a ball ache so far because these adjusters, these are toe arms and they're adjustable from the factory. They were seized in to fuck. And the thing is as well, you can't even cut them out really, because if you look, the other end is kind of in that area, so there's no real way of getting an angle grinder to it. And genuinely, I've seen quite a few MR2 people when they don't come out, it's usually because their subframe's a bit scabby too, just get a whole fucking new subframe and start again. But this subframe's really good, so I was like, nah, I'm getting this fucker out. It took a massive breaker bar and a scaffold pole on the end, so in total there was a 5-foot lever or so to even get the bolt on the back of these, well, the nut on the back of these to move. But unfortunately, after it started moving, it was moving the nut and bolt and the metal bush, the metal sleeve, whatever you want to call it, that the nut, well, the bolt goes through. It was moving all of that inside the bush. You know, basically the bolt was seized to the fucking sleeve, which ain't gonna help me get it out at all, rotating or not. No. If anything, that would have, in a way, made it worse, because less leverage to break the fucker free. So it's like, oh, great. So I resorted to, wow, my favourite thing, and which is how I got the bushes out anyway, which was fire. I just put the blowtorch on it, and I didn't really know, well, basically there was a chance the heat would make metal expand and so on and maybe break it free. But also, because there's a rubber bush in there which I'm meant to be replacing, it would probably, well, it definitely would destroy that, which in theory is very counterproductive, because that would give even less things for the sleeve to hold on to, so even less likely to break it free from the nut and bolt. But I did anyway, because I was out of options. There was nothing else I could fucking do without scrapping the subframe or getting some real, like some kind of Dremel to cut that off. And then even then, if I cut that off, I'd have to then cut that off and then hope I could pull it out, and yeah, it wouldn't be good. But lots of fire, plus lots of hammering, plus lots of just fucking brute force, and I got them out. And now these are, I've literally popped them back in for now to hold the suspension in place so the car stays mobile. And but yeah, they're loose, so I can do that now. I've got the new ones of these coming, they're on their way. They're literally like 35 quid each, so it's nothing. But I can do the bushes beforehand, especially now it's in the air. Same as the hub ones, I can do fairly easy. I think I'm going to need to remove the brake calipers and the brake discs to do that hub bush one without melting anything, because I'm obviously going to burn them out. But apart from that, I should be able to do it on the car, so that's pretty good news. I'd show you that I've done a few more things to the interior, but it's not that fucking interesting, but I can't show you now because it's in the air. But I've relocated the ECU a bit for easier access and just neatened up a few things, and started with wiring up the speed sensor for the ECU, which allows things like rolling anti-lag and stuff like that to be and boost by gear, so I can do that. So I've started doing that, but that's all inside and it just looks like wires, so whatever. Aside from the car, I've been buttoning up the engine and gearbox, again with things you can't really tell, because obviously in the other video, the last video I think, the engine was, well, very similar looking, but I've been doing the extra bits and pieces it needs doing, blocking up the water feed for the turbo, blocking EGR, modifying this rear water pipe. We had to modify it anyway. This one here comes out the back of the water pump housing. We had to modify it anyway for the MR2 a little bit, just because there was extra pipes I didn't need. But where they were blanked off before, they had like bits sticking out, and I didn't like that. It just, at the back of the engine bay, it's awkward to work on anyway, so I got it and I've cut and welded it and blanked them off properly. So yeah, it's much neater now. It just gives a little bit more room for stuff, because things like accessing the NOx sensors is just a fucker of a job. Like on the front wheel drive application, front engine application, the NOx sensors are on the front, and it's all the turbo related stuff. That's a nightmare. On this, being mid-engine, the turbo stuff is the easiest thing in the world, but these parts are difficult to get to. I'd much rather have this layout to work on than the other way around when the turbo stuff's hard to get to. I genuinely think I wouldn't have an MR2 if it was the turbo stuff, it's hard to get to because there's so much more work to do. Whereas, you know, on the back there isn't much. Yes, it's awkward, but what's there? A couple of knock sensors, you know, bits and bobs. It's no big deal. Got the oil filler, got the dipstick back in. Cam sensor, no, crank sensor. Obviously cam sensor's there. And yeah, it's just thermostat housing, which obviously there's no thermostat in it 'cause I'm running the electric water pump. But yeah, it's getting there. Gearbox, I didn't actually plan to do anything apart from give it a clean and a check over and change the oil. But there was a couple of issues. And to be honest, I reckon I think I missed them first time out. I mean, the gear change, I mean, you would have seen in the previous videos. In fact, I might do a little compilation here of the fucking action because yeah, this thing changed gear fast. The gear change was fantastic, but when I took it out, I realised this was floppy as fuck. And it's like, thinking about it, it was always like that. And I showed Thomas, it's like, that's not meant to be like that, is it? He's like, no, not at all. And I think what it was is the splined section of this that goes to the linkage into the box must be a bit worn, because I tried a different gearbox and it had no movement even without the nut on it. So what we did was obviously using the original nut, but put quite a big washer underneath it that pushes down on this without pushing down on the spline section, so forces it together so it is solid as a rock. And actually this was a bit loose as well, like here. Basically there was play again because this was kept getting loose, and I remember why now. Well, I remembered why as soon as I saw it. Never did this that tight because it was binding up against the ball joint, so I couldn't. So what I've done now is adjusted the fitting, added a sort of different washer there so it doesn't bind up anymore. So it's fully tight but doesn't bind up, which is good. Another option would be to raise this slightly to up there, but I don't know if that's going to involve me needing to adjust the linkage length again, and I don't think I can be bothered when this seems to clear. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah, if I lifted it, so this would be straighter, there'd be less angle on the spherical bearing, and obviously it wouldn't bind up, but it doesn't bind up now, so bollocks to it. So yeah, now I'm going to need to change the oil on this. It's not like I need to because it's got fresh oil in it, but I think to try and preserve its life with the new power and the new clutch, I'm gonna you know, put some kind of race oil in it, redline shockproof or something, I don't know. But yeah, so yeah, we're getting close. I mean, maybe I've got all the parts, so maybe I think I've got the parts. Maybe this all goes together and it gets put in the engine bay this weekend, or by this weekend, I don't know, but it's certainly looking very likely. So yeah, I think that's all for this. I'm literally going to make this short video just so you got an update, because I've not done anything for 2 weeks, so you deserve an update. So yeah, Hoped you liked it, as short as it maybe is. And I reckon the next update, now, you know, things are changing, cars on the ramp, will be much sooner, hopefully within a week of this one. So yeah, let's see. But yeah, you know, life has made things slower trying to earn money. I wish I had money, but I'm really fucking running on, like, you know, I build this on fumes. What a lot of people will spend on their, like, fancy lights for their car is more than I spend on this entire fucking build. You know, so yeah, I'm doing some seriously fast on a seriously low budget, but I still have to earn some money. So I've been working as much as I can too, so slightly slower progress than usual. Anyway, enough waffling. I'll see you next time. Ta-ra.